Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the 1904 Club podcast, of course, from the Hull Daily Mail. We're coming to you after two games this week, of course, Sunderland on Sunday and Burnley last night. Guests today, Burnsy and Prutts. Burnsy, how are you?
Morning. I'm good, thank you. Looking forward to the chat. There's something that's been gnawing away at me since Sunday, so we'll talk about that. I'll not tell you what it is yet. I'm teasing. I'm twirling my tassels there. So
I don't even know what it
that's
is.
to come. Sorry, Prutts.
Twirling me tassels.
Given how the last few weeks have gone,
you didn't need.
Yeah, Prutts, how are you?
Good. I'm good. I was watching, whilst obviously keeping an eye on Borough Sheffield last night, keeping an eye on what the City score was, and for a long while it looked like it was going to be pretty decent, didn't it?
It did, yeah. And we'll start with last night's game. Yeah, I thought they played well first off. I thought that was one of their probably the Cardiff aside. I thought that was one of their better performances of the season. I thought they, when you factor in the opposition, their unbeaten run, the fact they've just come down from the Premier League, blah blah. I thought first off they were really good. They tried to be much more creative. They were quicker. They were sharper. As Burnsy said before, they were a bit more compact going the other way, and I thought they were full value for the lead that Xavier Simons gave them just before half time. But you didn't think Burnley would be quite as poor in the first half as you didn't think they'd be as poor in the second as they were in the first, and they controlled much of the second half. So I think you'd have to say on the balance of play, Burnsy, probably a draw was about fair, would you say?
I thought at one point City deserved it. I thought they were decent. I thought Burnley started all right for the first 10, 15 minutes, zipped it around, passing was quite nice. I thought, I like the right winger. That was a good contest with Drame, who had an excellent game. Probably his best game for City. They felt more compact to me, a bit more concise, a bit more together. They still don't create a lot of chances. They cope with Miller going off, and we'll come to Miller's injury a little later. So they cope with that early. I thought there was much to admire in it. It was a sort of, as I tweeted last night, a sort of get in there performance, really, and a step up from Sunderland. I thought there was merit in it, and if they'd won it, it wouldn't have been undeserved. But you're probably right. Point, and it might have been no points if the Burnley lad hadn't made a complete fresh air shot in the last minute from about 2 yards out. But yeah, decent. I thought it was quite encouraging.
Yeah, Prutts, from your point of view, obviously you were doing the Borough Sheffield game last night, weren't you? But that I think we talked before about Burnley and Scott Parker and how this was a really, really big test and one of their biggest yet, particularly given the fact that let's be honest, they don't win at home. They've won three in 2024. So winning at home for them is a real struggle. I guess you'd be frustrated if you're City because you've led for a period and then you've conceded a good header from Fleming, but it was avoidable and it's quite late, 13 minutes from time. So, what's your thought process on it?
Yeah, I think you're seeing the Burnley side. It sounds a little bit churlish to say that they're not quite 100% bang at it, given the fact that they sit second in the division. But I think you two saw up close yesterday that they're not dominating teams, are they? They're not kind of coming to a Hull City side and a setup where that they comprehensively play City off the park. That wouldn't have been the case. Unbeaten away from home, Burnley still, which again shows a bit of fortitude that they've got. But from City's point of view, it's not necessarily one that got away because, as you say, Burnsy, when you look at a team that had a wonderful chance at the death to try and steal all 3 points, it could have been a very different setup. But we kind of said, didn't we, going into this, what would be a decent return? And the Sunderland game, yes, it was a defeat, but acquitting themselves better against the Burnley side, who were just a couple of points back from Sunderland, shows that within what's going on with Tim Walter's team, that there is a real strength and a real character and a personality. Just going back to what Burnsy was saying, it's just about being able to create chances. Now, on the flip side of it is we covered Borough last night, who create so many chances but don't take them. But then Emmanuel Latela scored his first goal in God knows how long last night, and suddenly everything in the Gardens rose in their position in the table looks a little bit better. So from what I've seen, the games spread across the Championship. City being a little bit frustrating in the sense of winning, 3 on the bounce, then losing to Norwich, and then the Sunderland game, then feeling like they're getting back at it against Burnley. I just think it sums them up pretty succinctly, doesn't it? Capable of so much more, but prone to games passing them by, I think, at the moment, which seems to be the case, isn't it?
Yeah. Go on,
I was just going to make a sort of general point, and Prutts may be best qualified to on this one. Mind you, I know you watch a lot of games, Bass, but having seen Sunderland and Burnley, I think the owner was right before the season, saying that the standard's not going to be the same in the division as it has been in previous years. It looks competitive. It's always competitive, but you know there's nothing outstanding there. And to me, if City can at least hang in there, at least mid-table till January, they're going to have a chance in this division if they can hang in there. And I genuinely don't know. They could make the playoffs. They could get relegated. They could be mired in mid-table. I know nothing about them, but the average level in terms of performance looks lower than it does in previous years. By the way, if the owner, knowing that, and he said it before the season, Adrian, if he got his finger out and got the transfer business done early, it might have been flying. But anyway, is it a sort of competitive but below par division, Prutts?
I think it depends what we deem to be the kind of mean of a season. Whether do we flip it in a slightly more positive way and say the level was higher last season because it was a bit more of an anomaly? Do we look at this season as it kind of reverting back to not necessarily tight, but what the Championship is absolutely about? And so I'm just taking a look at the top 6 with Sunderland, Burnley, Leeds, West Brom, Sheffield United and Blackburn. I've seen those teams play well. I've seen them play not so well. I mean, the West Brom Leeds game, I don't even know why that's sticking in my memory, because that was just 2 teams completely cancelling each other out. Sunderland against Leeds at the Stadium Light. Sunderland were good for the first portion. Leeds were better for the majority. But then obviously you get Ilian Meslier chucking the ball in, which then kind of kills Leeds towards the end of that. Sheffield United back-to-back defeats after being unbeaten for such a long period of time, that they look out of sorts. Understandably, possibly so. I was mentioning it last night, given the horrendously emotional and tragic circumstances of the last week for Sheffield United. Blackburn, a team that's seemingly transformed under John Eustace, very, very good at home. But we've seen them classically in the last 2 or 3 seasons get to January and tail off. I mean, I could go through the whole side here. You've got a Norwich side that were in the playoff semi-finals last season. They've changed and put Johannes Torup in, needing late equalisers from the likes of Shane Duffy to salvage points. Borough, back-to-back defeats for them, back at it by beating Sheffield United. The makeup of the division, working your way all the way down to Hull City. Millwall taking on Plymouth Argyle last night. A win for Millwall takes them from just outside the relegation places to 13th. So maybe I'm literally backing up what you're saying here, Burnsy, by virtue of you work your way down the division. Oxford United, not played at this level for 25 years, sitting above Hull City, sitting above Derby, sitting above Swansea, sitting above Prestonstoke, Sheffield Wednesday, Luton Town. Yes, so inherently it's an emphatic yes that the spread across the division, and maybe this is where we look at the owner and we're kind of questioning that sense of what decisions that were made with regards to the management. Maybe I've sold him short. Maybe he's done his homework. Maybe he's really done his homework and gone, Christ, if we get a certain type of manager and we can get right in amongst it, but then, like you say, that slight fly in the ointment, Burns, you're thinking, from a management point of view, we've got this team set up. have we done enough to get the right players in to blast through the division? And I'd say at this moment, jury's very much still out, I think, isn't it, with regards to players that have come in and the makeup of the side and the fortitude of the side that can go winning 3 on the spin and then get humbled consecutively and then pull out a result against Burnley.
Yeah, I think that's fair. When you look at it as well, they've played 5 of the top 7, and they've got West Brom to come before the final game before the international break, and then Blackburn. I mean, the Christmas that Christmas, whoever's given us Preston away and Blackburn away over Christmas, thank you. Yeah, but I think that is true. And when you look at the teams that those 5, I can't say that I've been impressed. Probably Norwich are the only ones where I've gone, yeah, they were, that was 4-0, should have been 5 because of the penalty. Norwich were a lot better than Hull City. I look at the Leeds game and I thought Leeds against City, City had a lot of the ball, never looked like scoring. Leeds created a couple of moments and scored them, but they weren't, I can't say Leeds were convincing. Sheffield United sat in, obviously I think you did the game for us, didn't you? Yes. Sheffield United sat in, just waited for 2 mistakes and scored. Didn't really do a lot thereafter. So yeah, I mean, I do think the Championship. Yeah, they've got to look. I was disappointed with them on Sunday. I thought they were average, but I thought equally Sunderland were average. I thought a point, and we'll come. I'm sure I have an inkling what your gripe might be, but I thought they were probably good for a point on Sunday.
I think the thing that we're sorry to put in, Baz, but I think if we're looking at football as we should do, because I think there's a tendency to over intellectualize what we're seeing or what we're trying or how we try and explain football. If you're a City fan who turns up on Sunday going, right, the league leaders are here, let's have a look, and everyone's prone to grinding through games and not being, at the wonderful, startling best. And you look at it and you go, and again, going back to your point, Burnsy, you sat there going, well, they're top of the league and we're several places below them. But seemingly, and obviously on any given day, anyone can beat anyone, but you're sat there going, possibly what is all the fuss about? With the greatest respect to Sunderland, because what Regis Labriche is doing with a side that's still quite young, that's still the bulk of it, last season's crop, that he's getting a better tune out of. I think that's when, understandably, that's where the head scratching comes in, because we spoke about it in portions last season of why can't it be Hull City in the top 6? Why can't they even have bigger aspirations of the top 2? Because no one has got into top gear yet. No, even Leicester, when they were going through the gears last season, even their fans were moaning about the way that they were winning football matches, but they were winning football matches and moving through what was coming towards them. Leeds United getting 90 points and finishing 3rd. So there's so much already that we've seen in the Championship, Burnsy, and going back to your point of, again, almost as a City fan going, if not us, why not us?
Yeah, and I think that's fair. And I think that is, and I think people will be encouraged by the performance last night against and let's be fair, I think most people would expect Burnley to outlast Sunderland in the promotion race. I think most people would say by the time we get to 35 games in, Burnley will be top 2 and Sunderland might have drifted to 6th or 5th and be in the playoff pack as opposed to the promotion race. And as we said before we went on there, nobody knows. None of us know how this is going to play out because we're only 11 games into a 46-game season. There is so much yet to happen. But I think there is reason to be encouraged by elements of what we're seeing. But and I think when you look at what other teams are doing, City are they're competitive. The only game where they've been blown apart was Norwich. So once in 10 games they've been blown apart. I think last night shows, and to a degree against Sunderland as well. And I'm sure we'll come on to the manner of that concession a bit later on. But they were competitive against a Sunderland team that's still top, and they've now won 2 out of 2 because they won at City and they've gone to Luton last night and won the game there. So they're eking out results. So I think from my concern for City, right as we speak right now, is and Burnsy touched on this, is the lack of chances. They didn't have a single shot on target against Sunderland. They didn't have a single shot on target of I think at Norwich. And then last night they only had 2 shots on target, one of which was obviously the goal. Now, last night felt better. They created more. There was, the Kamara had a fizzing ball through the penalty area. There were 1 or 2 moments. Regan probably should have hit the target when he blazed over from the edge of the box. Gustavo Puerta headed wide from an absolute worldie of a cross from Bellumi from right to left. But they're not working the goalkeeper anywhere near enough just at the minute. So that is something that, and I think that is borne out by João Pedro. Only had 5 touches in the entire game in the time he was on the pitch. So that is something they're going to have to work out, isn't it, Burnsy? Getting within these games, creating more goal scoring opportunities. I think they both teams last night had 11 shots, but only 2 as I say, only 2 on target from City.
I don't want to be pernickety. I've heard this, that they didn't have a shot on target against Sunderland. Didn't Mellon at the start of the second half squeeze a little shot in that the keeper saved? I am being pernickety there, but I'm just making sure my marbles aren't disappearing. But anyway, it's neither here nor there. They don't create enough. Puerta was interesting. There was not Puerta, sorry. Pedro was interested. My thoughts on his performance last night, the only thing I can remember really, he was game. Well, there were 2 things I can remember. It looked like they were running NFL blocking Burnley as he tried to chase down the kickoff. There was, I think, 3 players came across him at one point as he's trying to chase through to the keeper. He had nice hold-up play in the first half in the box, back to goal, strong, everything like that. And then sort of almost got on that cross from Kamara, but didn't quite. He was all right. And just mentioning Puerta, I wanted to mention him. Lots of fans last night on Twitter say, "Oh, class, brilliant," everything like that. And there is a danger of elevating them too quickly when you see a half-decent performance. I thought it was a half-decent performance from him. He was too loose in possession, and I'd like to see more from him. He was just careless in possession too often for me, about 3 or 4 times. But, there was something there. He brought something to the game. It was, personally, I was glad to see Slater back in the side. I don't see how Slater can not be in the side. And Simons, got his goal. Oh, by the way.
Oh, he's frozen. You're frozen. What are we doing here?
That was. I was playing my goal music there. Did it not work?
No, it didn't.
You've got your headphones in.
You see, on the radio, I've had slick production. It wouldn't. I was playing the Ramones' "Hey Ho, Let's Go." I should have played Simons and Garfunkel. Anyway, taxi for Burns. I'll get my coat. But anyway, and Simons, who I've looked at in midfield and thought, I'm not, and I think this is probably a feeling certainly Baz has shared, maybe not quite up to it, but the manager likes him and he seems to be growing into the role. I've waffled on a bit there, I can only apologise, and I'm gutted my goal music thing didn't work.
Well, you try and figure out how to use a mobile phone, your 3210, and me and Prutts will talk about some football. Prutts, one thing that City fans have raised, and I think it's a fair point, is that and I guess from the manager's point of view, there's going to be a lot of chopping and changing because he's obviously had a lot of new players come in, but he hasn't been able to settle on his midfield setup. That pretty much changes week on week. It was a little more settled last night because Simons and Gustavo Puerta kept their places from Sunday. Malum is out injured with a calf injury, and he won't be back until after the international break. So that brought in Regan Slater. Is it from a midfielder's point of view? I guess this translates to all across the pitch, but if you're in and out of the team, and you're getting 20 minutes here, then you might start a game and play an hour, and then you're out of the team for a couple of weeks, and you're back in the team, and it's constant chopping and changing. You're not getting that rhythm, that confidence, that momentum. You're not building partnerships with the players around you in that particular area. Is it really difficult for players when it's like that?
It can be tough, yeah. I think it's more acceptable now, or accepted now, that there's that change of team, of system, of personnel. It's not words like being dropped are not used anymore, really, are they? It's more rested. About what's rested, or I've picked a team capable of winning this football match, which can be as vague a reason as any to chop and change, because you don't give any detail, because obviously you want to win every single game you play in. It's about that ability to get rhythm, both personally and as a group, and the minutes in the legs, because I always felt better. There's a lot of chat, obviously, nowadays about workloads for players, but I always felt better for playing game on game on game, because you do kind of then end up being in that rhythm, and things become second nature. And the bits in between the games are quite low key. So your training sessions will be different to potentially a player that's obviously not played. So you keep ticking over, just ready for the next game, because it is so very hectic in the Championship. So yeah, I can totally see that. I can also see as well, if you're watching it on the pitch, you're looking at a team that's choppy. Obviously, you've got to take into account availability from a suspension and a fitness point of view. But when you're looking at a team that's not necessarily pulling teams apart, nor is it stinking the place up, the nuance of the changes, I think, can be a little bit lost on us sat watching, can't it? You kind of think, well, why is he now preferred to him? But then that's me possibly dialing down the thought process of City and thinking, well, what does Burnley's midfield offer as a threat when it comes to how they go about a football match? And a team that's got Hannibal, Brownhill and Josh Cullen in that middle three, with Kolyosho, Anthony, and then Zian Fleming, big money signing from Millwall, leading the line for Burnley. Maybe there is a thought process in, yes, we're playing at home. Yes, it's up to us to set the tempo, but just what have Burnley got to offer? I was doing the Leeds United-Sheffield United game on Friday. Sheffield go to a back three for the first time this season because of how Chris perceives Leeds to be a threat for them. Didn't come off, went back to a 4 last night, shot shy. And you mentioned players not getting any touches. Kiefer Moore led the line, 10 touches he had. 10 touches in a game of football. Couldn't get him into the game. So that's not trying to bust the myth of what sometimes I think coaching is. I think there's a lot of thought goes into this, and it can't be a sense of, it won't be any form of favouritism or he's not floating my boat this week. I think it's done more in a sense of what we can do and what we can do to stop the opposition.
Go on, Burnsy.
Read the touches for the strikers. Is it because the people with all the touches are the centre halves and the chuffing goalkeepers these days?
Well, I suppose
that's where the touches are.
Yeah, that's a very good point. There's another. I'm trying to think of the game before. Oh, the game the night before was QPR against
Was it Portsmouth?
No, it was Coventry.
Coventry.
Portsmouth for them, for QPR, Michael Frey didn't play, and Jan Selar played 12 touches, and so it's you're probably right, Burnsy, that build-up play, because there's not many. If you see a goalkeeper kick it out of his hands nowadays, that's an outlier, isn't it? You go, oh, crap, that's odd. You don't see that much anymore. So maybe there is a change in kind of perception or expectation of what a striker should be. I mean, the best of them all, Erling Haaland, they talk about how little he touches the ball but scores goals for fun. Yes, that's a bit of a jump, bless them, from the players that we're talking about in Erling Haaland. But maybe there is a slight change in face of what a striker should expect when it comes to being involved in a game.
I know we're short of time this morning, chaps. So I'm going to shift it on to there's a couple of players that have come into the team over the last couple of games. Charlie Hughes is one of them. I think we'd all been talking about Charlie Hughes over the course of, well, even before he came to the club from Wigan, and obviously we were wondering when he'd get his chance. Then he was out with, his appendix. He made a swift recovery from that. We saw him the second half at Norwich. But he made his home full debut on Sunday, and again last night. I thought he was tremendous, and the fans every time he wins the ball, which is a lot, there's a roar of Hughes around the stadium. I love him. I've been so impressed with him. I spoke to him last week. He was just such a nice lad to talk to, really driven, and his performances, Burnsy. I just love watching him play. He's direct. He He wants to win the ball. He powers himself in front of the defender, be that in the air or on the deck. I know it's early days, and he only turned 21 last week, and he's raw. He's still going to, he's got a lot to learn, particularly at this level. But the early signs and the partnership with Alfie Jones looks really promising, doesn't it? What have you made of him so far?
Yeah, I've enjoyed watching him. He owes Alfie Jones a pint for last night because he got him out of jail at one point late in the game when he lost the ball, didn't win a tackle at the edge of the box. But he looks to me the sort of player that feasts on desperate Dan cow pies, basically. He's that sort of character. I like the look of him, and he can play. And I think he's made an excellent start. There's a lot of promise there. In terms of build, there's a bit of Harry Maguire about him.
Yes, there is. Isn't there?
I think so. Whether he's got Harry's ability to come out with a ball. Interestingly, he's not doing the Sean McLaughlin and turning up at number 10. So whether the manager said to him, just calm it down, stay back and defend. But yeah, I'm impressed with him. I've liked what I've seen. So there's potential there.
Prutts?
Yeah, I think it's the age of the player, isn't it? That's possibly the most exciting thing for City, given that commitment to getting him in the door and hopefully what they see on the pitch. We always kind of thought that he'd been brought in obviously to start, but he'd have to bide his time, given who was the makeup of the defence. But he talks in a way, as you say, there's so much to like about him, the ambition of the player, the ability of the player, and hopefully hitting City at the right time where his development matches what City get out of him this season. So yeah, no, I echo what you're both saying there. Lots to like, shades of Harry, which, I mean, whatever your opinion is of Harry Maguire right now at this moment in time, he's had a phenomenal career. So if it's anything like that one, bloody hell, he'll be buzzing. And
I've been impressed with Puerto as well. I know he's another player that fans have wanted to see a lot. Obviously, comes from Leverkusen, with a big, big expectation and big excitement. And he's another one that had to wait for his chance. Impressed. Tim said to me a couple of weeks ago that he was the big winner from their training camp in Antalya. Obviously, handed a start against Sunderland and did okay. Drifted in and out, but he's young. He's only 20. It was his first taste of any Championship football. And I thought against Burnley again, he stepped it up a level. He was tenacious. He tried to get on the ball and drive, and and also he wasn't afraid to go beyond. Obviously, he had the header. He maybe should have done better. In fairness, I haven't seen a replay from that Balloon cross I referenced at the top of the show. But I think that was another encouraging performance. Just on the injury front. So Miller went off after 5 minutes with a knee problem, tried to carry on, got clattered, couldn't. Kamara came on for him, Miller having replaced Kamara in the starting lineup. Malam's out until after the international break, as is Stephen Alzate, as is Carl Rushworth, but he's probably out until the new year. And then you've obviously got the Lo Tatala and Cartwright, but obviously I'm not sure at the minute they're going to be. I say they're not going to challenge. If they get fit, one of them may well come back into contention because of Rushworth's injury. So they've got a few injuries, Burnsy.
Having a scan. Miller's having a scan.
So Miller's having a scan on his knee. Yeah. So we'll there's a media conference. Probably by the time a lot of people listen to this, we will have spoken to Tim Walter again and tried to get an update. But we'll have to wait and see how that one plays out. But I think you'd have to say at this stage he looks a doubt for Derby on Sunday. Very quickly, let's just reference that Sunderland game. Prutts, the winning goal, it caused a lot of conjecture. It got Julian Hubner, the assistant manager, booked. It got Alfie Jones booked. It got Tim Walter booked after the game, and he was sat in the stands last night, which he said was bloody horrible. Your thoughts quickly?
I can understand. I can understand the frustration. He's an awfully long way away from the goal.
He's gone 75 yards to score.
So, and every goal you can trace back and point the finger at the genesis of it. But yeah, like I said, I can see why there would be an element of disappointment. I could possibly even put myself in the boots of the players and see me admonishing the ref in that particular instance, but an awfully long way to go. It's not like the referee's body checked anyone, is there, or anything like that? Just marginally got in the way, and then it just becomes, it just grows legs, doesn't it? And then obviously there's fingers pointed at officials and the standard of officiating. But I like I said, I can understand the disappointment. To say that's the absolute reason that he scores the goal is rubbish, because he's miles, like you say, 80 odd yards away from his goal.
Go on, Burnsy.
It's on, Prutts, spot on. Because, Mellum's got to be stronger there. He'd lost the referee by the time he's got the ball, loses it. And, wet lettuce time in terms of trying to win it back. And, there've been the 2 goals against Sheffield United done from their own corners. Why is there not somebody somewhere in the vicinity or halfway to make sure that sort of thing doesn't happen again? Down to the coach. The thing that's been annoying me all week, and I've never heard it before, post-match, he's saying, Tim Walter's saying, well, I'm paraphrasing here, but I expected the referee to know how we play. Why should the referee know? The referee's all watching videos at night of the teams they've got coming up. I'd never heard that. Why should the ref know how they play? That's not the ref's responsibility, is it? Or maybe I've just been in a cave for 40 years.
In fairness to Tim Walter, this is something that Liam Rossini said repeatedly last season. He would always say the referee, because he felt that City last season were fouled a lot, and he would say to me on and off the record a lot that the referees need to understand how we play. That we play off 1 touch, 2 touch. That we move the ball quickly. We don't fall up. We don't flop on the floor, and we're getting kicked constantly. And there was many occasions when he would come in after a game or before a game would reference the fact that he wants the referee of the game to understand how his team play. Then that his team, that because the way they take the ball, they invite fouls, particularly players like Carvalho and Jadon Philogene. And Philogene was getting, as we all know, last season was getting absolutely hammered from pillar to post. He was getting kicked all over the shop, and that was something that Liam raised. So, in fairness to Tim, I think what he was getting at was that when you referee teams, there's certain things about certain teams that what to expect. Perhaps there's a player in a team that's got a bit more chat than usual, or there's a player in a team that commits a few more fouls and he's a bit more cynical in certain areas than other players. I think what he was getting at was about having that awareness of how they play. And I get your point as well. Ultimately, Bobby Madley got in the way on more than one occasion. And I think for a top level referee to get in the way of play on 2 or 3 occasions in a game isn't great. But equally, it's so fast paced, it's moved so quickly that it can be hard. Go on.
Yeah, I know for a fact, and I won't go into too much detail, that the referees will do as much homework as they possibly can, more so around potentially set pieces and corners, to make sure that they give themselves the best line of sight, the best line of vision to make the correct decision. The open play aspect that Tim's on about, I don't necessarily agree with, because if you're telling me that
it was a set piece, wasn't it? It was a corner, so he's saying they should know what we do with corners.
But then, the position of the referee, where's he meant to stand? The other side of the 18-yard box. The corner's from that side. Positioning the referee's fine. The referee does not body check anybody. He's vaguely in the way of where the ball is. The ball's lost due in no facts, due to no parts of the referee at all. It's not looked after properly. It's quite a meek turnover from Hull City's point of view. If I was Tim, I'd be more bothered about that than the referee's position coming from your own set piece. Going back to Liam's comments last season, I watched so many games where Liam Delap, who is 6 foot, 6'1",
yeah,
built, he went down way too easily several times at the start of last season, and that isn't subjective. That's objective fact. Objective fact. To the point where you're watching it and you were getting quite frustrated with the way that certain aspects of the team were looking for fouls. So that sense of injustice that's being felt, and almost that sense of derision, if you like, from a coach, I've got absolutely no time for. Oh, well, we've done our bit. The referee needs to do his homework. Do you know how hard it is for a referee to get through a game in the Championship, to get through a game in the Premier League with VAR not remotely helping, with everybody clipping things up, putting it on Twitter? He's onside, he's offside, he's not interfering with play, he's in front of the ref, in front of the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper's got to do better. Well, in that game last week, he gave a free kick for this. It's a completely different sense. No, but because it's City, it's, you know what I mean? The corrupt Premier League is at its fullest, and it's looking after the big clubs. Nonsense. Utter nonsense. Hull City would, if they end the season not in the top 6, it won't be because of referees. It'll be because they weren't good enough over the course of the piece. And this crap of buying into it and stoking the fires, you know, and I'm ranting now. You get,
I like it. Keep going.
You get people watching the Bournemouth Arsenal game. Howard Webb's on the microphone. He's telling the referee to send Saliba off. Sorry, bollocks. He's not. He's there because he's the boss of the referees listening to the feed. Like commentators listen to the feed, the VAR feed. It's a nonsense, this stuff about standards of refereeing, about not being in control of games. Football right now is harder to officiate than it ever has been. And comments from Tim Walter saying they should know how we play better. They're doing 2 or 3 games a week as well as Hull City are. What they're meant to do, know exactly how each team plays. And if you looked at Hull City this season, could you predict how they were going to play? No.
Brilliant, Rant. I'm with you 100%, Prutts, by the way. This was my favourite comment on the week on this. It came from somebody called White62 on the Hull Daily Mail's comments on Baz's story about the incident. And so White62 says, how on earth do you expect the ref to know how City play? They don't know themselves. So it just made me chuckle. And
yeah,
I just when I heard it, I thought, no, come on, you can't expect that of the referees.
No,
look,
sort yourselves out.
Yeah, and for me, look, it's dead easy. This is that City that was a shambles from City. They've had a corner. Malam's made a complete hash of it. He's lost the ball under no pressure at all. They've got 10 players on the edge of the penalty area. Drame's overpowered far too easy. The lads run 75 yards and scored a goal. I think if we're blaming the referee for Hull City losing the game to Sunderland, we've got a big problem. They have to take responsibility, and I get it from Wold. To a point, I get it that they blame somebody else. We had it at Norwich at the first game of last season. The winning goal, yes, there was 2 things about the winning goal that City were unhappy about. First of all, the ball. The ball which I think it was Adam Ida at the time. The ball ran behind the touchline. Norwich got a corner, and from that they scored the winning goal. The other issue that Liam Rossini was angry about was the fact that they played more than 97 minutes. And I said at the time, and I put this, Liam wasn't allowed to do media. It was just because he got sent off. It was Justin Walker, and I said to Justin Walker, "Is this not a bit disingenuous to blame the referee?" For playing more than 97 minutes. We all know that added time is a minimum of, and if you waste time or make substitutions within that 7 minutes of added time, the referee is well within his rights to add more time on. It's not, we're going to play 7 minutes, and as soon as it gets to 7 minutes, that's the end of it. You have to switch on. They didn't switch on. They defended embarrassingly from the corner. McLaughlin fell over and they scored the goal. Yes, it shouldn't have happened in the sense that the ball was behind the line. I get that, but they were pushing. They were pushing the 7-minute narrative. Well, that's a load of nonsense. It's a minimum of, and I thought on Sunday that Tim was trying to protect his players when in fact, I pushed him on it, and I said, look, you're frustrated about the referee's decision and that, but should your players have not have taken responsibility and done better? And he was like, yeah, I can't argue with that, and that's ultimately the truth.
The other side of it is as well, if you look at the position of the referee. And then obviously is hopefully ably assisted by the assistant referee, who's, if you're looking at the goal, he's referee's there. He's on the opposite side to where the corner's being taken, the linesman. So if the referee doesn't stand there and he stands the same side as where the assistant is, that's a half to 2/3 of the pitch. they've got no clear sight of. So the next thing would be Hull City toss the ball into the box. Potentially one of their players is getting held. There's no penalty, but there's no penalty because no one can see it because they're both on the opposite side of where the penalty's coming in. It's where the corner's coming in. So, as I said, I can categorically say, without going into detail, that officials will look at trends of teams that they're coming up against. They will look to see where can I best make the best decision from a positional point of view with regards to what their set pieces are. They do not just rock up and go, who is it today? Who is it today? The perception of it not being vocational, of it not being a career, of them not wanting to be the best version of themselves on that particular day because they get a lorry load of crap all the time anyway. It's just utter rubbish. It's like me turning up to Hull City going, Tim Walters says he wants to play a certain way. Doesn't look like it. Is he doing his work on the training pitch? Rubbish. Utter rubbish.
I mean, there's nothing more to add on that. I think that's...
No, I think we're done with that. To be fair.
I think the East Riding FAs who I've given a talk to in the past a few years ago will be sending you an email, Prutts. They'll cheer you into the room.
I mean, and this is coming from a fella. This is coming from a fellow who got 99 yellow cards and I think 12 red cards. So definitely poacher turn game. It's just because having worked with so many of them, and I do a fair bit with PGMOL on various different things. You just see the other side of it, and again, it's very kind of the crushing irony of a player that was a bit gobby and was very ill-timed. I totally get it, and I hope that it's trying to separate the hypocrite from the transformed, basically, or the informed, if you like, further down the line. But it's so lazy, the narrative of officiating and blaming it and for results and outcomes. The uproar that because I'd read the match report and then I'd looked at the goal and the reaction from the game and then looked at the goal and you go, well, it's almost like you're talking about two completely different things here. In what you'd see on whatever social media is that the referees clotheslined a Hull City player, you know what I mean, and allowed Sunderland a free run at goal. Rubbish. It's not the case. Yes, you can be disappointed, but there's so much more to happen off the back of that for the ball to end, as you say, Baz, 85 yards down the pitch in your goal.
I think you're a shining example of the benefits of community service because you are now a reformed character, aren't you?
Exactly.
Just finally, because as I say, we're running out of time. Derby County, I say that, and that hurts me to say. Derby County away on Saturday. Please, just for the love of God, win that game. Prutts, we know that lot have got a decent record at home. 11 wins out of 12, dating back to their thoroughly enjoyable time in the third tier last year. Their only defeat, they will say, was against Norwich and it shouldn't have happened, but they lost, so get over it. Big game for City at the weekend, isn't it? Because they are, as much as it pains me to say it, that lot are good at home.
Yeah, and they've got themselves into the swing of things back in the Championship, haven't they? So it's two sides with just a point between them and a very, very tough place to go. But then, as we've seen, Hull City not exactly setting the MKM alight with regards to results, are they? So maybe a bit of pressure off, not necessarily saying that they're feeling pressure. But the good things that they take away from the Burnley game, they've got to absolutely put into the Derby game and the before that little run of form before the Norwich game, get back to what they were doing which was seeing teams off.
Well, City as an example. Say again?
Prutts has got to go. I've got some messages I can read out unless you're rushing off as well.
Yeah, well, we've got a couple of minutes if he's got to go. But the example of that is Hull City have got the 22nd worst home record in the league, but the 7th best away record. So Derby have got the 6th best home record and the 21st best away record. So,
similar.
Yeah, very. So, away from home, and you don't know what you're going to get with City. This is and we've said this before, this is the crux of it. You've got no idea what you're going to get from City. They could turn up and win, and they could turn up and get smashed like they did at Norwich, though I think that's probably unlikely because Derby don't score a huge amount of goals. But, I I just hope they win. Just please God win that game. Burnsy, you've got some messages.
Yeah, I was conscious Prutts and Noah's got to go, so we'll see you next episode, Prutts.
Lovely stuff. I'll get me referee shaped soapbox that I'll get off. Sorry for swearing as well.
Yeah, if you weren't making so much money as a wonderful TV presenter, I'd be suggesting you become the ex-pro that becomes a referee. But
can you imagine? My God.
Next week.
With a whistle.
Yeah, and
you should do it. Well. You should do it as a TV feature. I think it'd be fascinating.
Oh, it's knackering. I did a tiny bits in George's Park and forgot what it's like to actually run around and not carry a few extra pounds after finishing playing. I was like, Jesus, leave me alone. But anyway, food for thought. Cheers, fellas. Been a pleasure.
Love you. Bye.
Next time. Bye.
We've got messages, Baz. As long as you're all right, we'll read a few messages. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a couple of minutes. Go on. Let's get some, because I know that
Matt Holmes says looking a lot more solid in the last couple of games, which, if I'm honest, I wasn't expecting. Lots of good performances, but just not quite enough in the final third at the moment. I think we'd agree with that. Big 3 games ahead, got to be targeting minimum of 6 points and looking to score a few goals. Tony Silva says, we all feared that we could only play one way and that would ship goals against the good sides. Walter has shown that he can change tactics. And Gary Kushney says, great watch last night. Thought team looked more gelled as a single unit. Yeah, I tweeted last night they look more cohesive to me. Back four was immense. Abu looked more confident on the right when Giles came on. He just can't cross on the left, more of a pass. Well, he played in a beautiful cross early on. And Jason Statham, not that one, says, do you think Walter knows his best team? Or is he chopping and changing due to the recent international breaks? Yeah, I think there's an element of that. And he says Zambrano and Slater have to start. And what I've seen from Puerta, he looks the best too. I actually thought when he brought the subs last night, when he brought on Abdush or Omar, whatever we're calling him these days, he should have brought Zambrano on when they were 1-0 up and just played out for the win. But that's me. Anything else to ask, Baz? I've got more messages.
I really liked Puerta. I thought he was very good last night, and I know Kamara got a lot of stick on Sunday for looking a bit lazy and whatnot. But I think there's always mitigating factors in these scenarios, isn't there? And I think, and I said this to Alfie we spoke to Alfie Jones last night. Congratulations to Alfie, by the way, for making his 150th
excellent game
league appearance for City. Yeah, there's a few things I asked him, obviously, about Charlie Hughes. But one of the things was I sort of suggested that that when you look at their team, they are quite a young team, and there is going to be an element of youthful naivety and exuberance to perhaps try and go forward a bit. Maybe when there's a time to sit back and just try and soak up a bit of pressure and just defend your box. You look at last night. Pandor's still I know he's 24, but he's still young in terms of a player and in terms of playing games in Championship. Hughes is only 21. You've got Simons is young in the centre of midfield. You've got Puerta's 20. You got Miller's still only 24. He went off and Kamara came on. He's a kid. Balloumi's still a kid. Slater is pushing on a bit, but there's not a huge amount of experience. Alfie Jonesy, you've got Coyley and Cody Drame. There's not obviously Pedro up front, but he's still new to the party. There isn't a huge amount of experience, so some of these players are going to have games where they make mistakes and they look a bit naff. Kamara looked naff at times against Sunderland, but he came off the bench last night and had a positive impact, as you say. That cross he put in first half was an absolute belter. I mean, it got Trafford, who I thought looked like a quivering wreck throughout the night. It had Trafford completely befuddled. And Balloumi blows hot and cold. There was, sometimes he'll rasp one off the crossbar. The next time he'll stick it in Rosette, and then he'll pick out. It was Puerta played an unbelievable I think it was first half, an unbelievable pick out. He won the ball right down on almost in front of the dugouts, turned and sprayed it out to Bloomy, 60-yard pass right onto his toe. He never had to move. And then there was Bloomy, second half, his cross from the right, excellent cross, picked out Puerta at the back post and he headed wide. I think there is an element of we're going to have to roll with this and expect that some of these players, these young players that are our players now, which is a great thing going forward, are going to make mistakes and are going to have poor games. Experienced players have poor games. And I think it is just part and parcel of when you sign young players, particularly young players from abroad or young players that haven't played a lot of games at this level, they are going to make mistakes and they're going to have to learn on the job.
I think my feeling on Kamara, I thought he did all right last night when he came on. He looks a bit diffident, doesn't he? And I think, given what we're expecting on Miller, just looking at that injury, no doctor, but you're thinking he's out for a little while. We'll get the results of the scan a little later today. He'll benefit Kamara from a run in the team, a bit of confidence. I thought he did some nice stuff last night. There's a few fans on Twitter have been suggesting he's Malcolm Ebuwe part 2. I can see a little bit of that, but give him a little time and let's see what happens. There's something there, and that was a peach of a cross in the first half. So I was sort of encouraged last night. It's sort of moving in the right direction. I do feel that the destiny of the season probably rests on Adjan getting his hand in his pocket in January and getting at least one striker.
That
don't have enough. Sorry.
Yeah, that remains for me the problem. They don't look great up front. Bedia looks okay. It's difficult to say anything on Pedro because he had 5 touches last night, and with respect, you can't really glean too much from that. But it was his first start. He's not played for a long time. He was blown out of his backside, but before for a while before he came off. I think just after the hour. So I think we all said it at the time, didn't we? That the lack of quality striker that they brought in the summer was going to hamper them, and they haven't. If we're honest, they haven't got a great record in that area. It cost them in January. The fact they didn't replace Liam Delap, they didn't go out and get a top striker in January was costly. The fact they didn't replace Delap, obviously Sharp didn't work. Ohio came into the team went on this. He was sent on his holidays for 6 weeks. Came back and scored 3 and 3. Connolly being out was a big blow as well. We've talked about that. I still think that their inability to go and get a Tom Cannon, a Tommy Conway, somebody of that ilk up front that gives them the ability in behind, the ability to stretch teams and score goals. They look a bit one pace going forward with Bedia and also Pedro. Maybe it's time that Mason Burstow, because Mason Burstow is a player that can play off the shoulder, can go in behind. Maybe it's time to give him a go. But we know that from his time at Hamburg and the way he utilised Glatzel, he likes the target man. He likes to play into the target man and play off and have his wingers playing off him and his number 10 playing off him. And that is in a way what Bedia kind of does. But yeah, I still think that's an area of concern. And hopefully they can muddle through to January and they can try and sign somebody, but they can't sign somebody without letting somebody go because they haven't got the room, nothing financial. They just haven't got the room in their squad. So they can't go out and sign somebody without letting people go because they've got so many players in their squad. Yeah.
Just on Burstow, presumably he's not showing it enough in training for him to get in the side. Bedia's, to me, Bedia's an interesting one because he's big and bullish. He's a handful for defenders. It's just at the crucial moment, and I know he hit the bar against Sunderland, maybe he doesn't quite get his shots off quick enough. He looks sometimes that he's not quite in control of it in the penalty box, but hopefully that'll come. I think there's something to admire about him. And if there was somebody tighter to him, the sort of chaos he causes in a penalty box might create little scrappy chances that somebody could stick away, but we'll wait and see. I'm conscious of the time, Baz. And Jeff Bilby sent me this, saying one for discussion on the podcast. The Hull City Supporters Trust are doing a poll. Goal music, yes or no? It's a no from me. I didn't hear it last night. It passed me by, but it's a no from me.
Yeah, it was. I'm reliably informed. It was Dario G's iconic anthem, Carnaval de Paris. I've got to be honest. At the back of the West Stand, all I heard was the roar of the goal going in. I didn't hear anything. It was pointed out to me. Obviously, people were talking about it on social media. That's how I found out about it. And I asked him after the game last night, and he said, "Yeah, he didn't know the song," which I find hard to believe. But I didn't have the ability at that time to play it to him when I spoke to him. So I'm sure he would have recognised the tune because it's so famous. But he said the players picked it. It was the players' decision. The fact that part of the stadium heard it and part of the stadium didn't, I mean, suggests that it wasn't great. But for me, if we're talking about goal music, that means they're scoring goals at home. And for most of the calendar year, we haven't seen goals at home. So if it means we're having a conversation, however that conversation plays out, I know there's a lot of feeling around in England about goal music. I get it. But for me, if we're talking about it, it means Hull City is scoring goals at home, which generally means they're probably going to win some games. And that's really all I care about is them scoring goals and winning games. The rest of it is like, just, I want to win games, basically.
There you go. Take your point, but it's still a no from me.
Fair play. Right. Couple of quick points just a quick couple of points of news. I know there was a lot of talk. It's been a long week. But a lot of talk about Tan and the manner of Tan's departure, owing to some conversation out in Turkey, which I'm not going to go into because legally it's a minefield. Nothing's changed. There's nothing. The club don't want to say anything. I've spoken to Ajun. Ajun doesn't want to say anything, and I completely get it. It's a really tricky situation. I think at this stage, probably, I think I said this on the pod the other day, best not to engage in any speculation on social media because you could land yourself in some hot water. I think there will be a restructure behind the scenes in terms of how the management structure now looks going forward. But I don't believe at this stage anybody will be brought in. Anybody externally will be brought in to take on that role. I think it will be somebody within the current hierarchy, if you like. So that is, the football club is running fine. The football club ran fine before. Tan's workload, if there is such a thing, there are people doing a lot of things anyway. So I don't think there's anything to be concerned about. As I say before, injury-wise, they're stacking up. We'll find out ahead of the trip to Derby on Saturday, the 3:00 kickoff at Pride Park, about injuries and who's available, and more importantly, particularly Liam Miller and how that one looks. But I know Ryan Longman is getting closer, and Doken Sinek could be involved on Saturday, Burnsy. Wouldn't that be an interesting one? More than a year since he last appeared.
That would be a novelty. The little bits we saw of him, he's obviously got some talent, but let's wait and see what he does. Good luck to Liam Miller, but it didn't look good, did it? No, it was quite a lengthy treatment, and then to go down after the treatment suggests that he'll be whatever.
Wish him the best.
But hopefully, I'm wrong.
Yeah, we wish him all the best because he's a wonderful player to watch and an even nicer guy to talk to. I really like him, and there is a lot to like about this squad. There's a lot of nice guys in there, and you always worry when players leave. A lot of good people left over the summer, and they've recruited and they've signed some really nice people. So, and Liam is one of those. So hopefully that injury is not too serious, and we get to see him again soon because City are a better team with Liam Miller in it than not. Burnsy, thanks for your company. Thanks to that fellow we had on before. What's his name again? Dave, somebody?
The referee's friend.
Howard Webbs.
He was right though.
No, he absolutely was. No, he was absolutely bang on. And I thought some of the immediate emotion, and I get it, but the immediate emotion after the Sunderland game was ill placed. And look, there are a lot, and we're all guilty of it as fans, aren't we? That sometimes we can't blame our own. We can't say it was our fault. We can't say it was our manager, it was our player, it was our owner, our chair, whatever the situation is. Look, and I apologise for going off at a tangent because I know blah blah, but everybody knows I support Forest. There was a situation a couple of weeks ago. Evangelos Marinakis, the Hull City owner, was slapped with a 5-game ban and the written reasons have come out, and the FA have said he spat on the floor in disgust as the referee walked in his direction. Now, the club have said he did spit on the floor. He smokes 2 to 3 cigars a day. He has phlegm. He has to get rid of it, either into a tissue or onto the floor. Now, and in Greece, the culture over there is slightly different. That people's right, and then there's fans going, "Well, he's spat on the floor, so what's the problem?" And actually, that's disgusting. I can't imagine it. I can't imagine a situation where I'm the owner of a football club and I'm unhappy with the referee's performance. So he walks towards me and I spit on the floor. People are making excuses.
Shouldn't be anywhere near the tunnel when the ref's there. Shouldn't be anywhere near the tunnel.
People are making excuses for this. And I'm thinking, am I for real? Why can't we be in a world where we can just go, yeah, fair cop, mate. We made him. I love my football club as much as the next person. I'm passionate. I love them to pieces. I want them to win every single game, etc., etc. But we made a mistake. Let's not blame somebody else. Just let's own the mistake. We made a mistake, and City against Sunderland made a mistake. Malum made a mistake. Drame was powder puff in his tackles and got overpowered, and Panda perhaps could have done better. So much happened after the referee may have stood inadvertently in the way of the ball and then jumped out of the way of it. That was it. Malum had the ball in space, was nowhere near anybody, got himself in a figure of 8, lost the ball. He should have been stronger. Or, if he was concerned, boot the ball out of play to allow your team to get back in shape. I think we've just got to take more responsibility and blaming the ref for that. And I say the Marinakis thing, making excuses for a bloke spitting on the floor indoors. It blows my mind that we're that tribal about our football teams that we can't see the wood for the trees and go, I'm sorry, but that's unacceptable. Whether it's my club or somebody else's club, that is unacceptable by any stretch of human decency. I know that's slightly different. I'm not comparing Malum losing the ball and Marinakis dozzing on the floor is the same thing, of course, before people shout at me. But I'm saying we are allowed in this industry to admit that we made a mistake for a goal and go, it was our fault. We could have done better. Burnsy, final word to you.
It's been a ranting episode of the 1904 Club. Thanks to Prutts for earlier.
But it has been a ranty, but we've actually praised, because we get criticised all the time for being. I saw somebody sent me something the other night going, the 1904 Club.
He's off again.
Yeah, the 1904 Club boys will be delighted we've lost to Sunderland in that manner. No, we want City to win. And I thought they played well last night. And I was encouraged by the performance last night, particularly Charlie Hughes, who I think is an absolute hero. And I really like Puerta. And I thought they were worthy of a point against a team that will probably go on to win promotion just because it's Burnley and they just chop and change. They go up and they go down. They offer nothing when they go up. They come down and win the league. They go up, offer nothing, come down, and we repeat the process. But, fair play. It works for them.